Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the Reptile Livingroom, featuring John Taylor of Herp House Magazine and James Tintle with ColdBlooded Publishing. The Reptile Livingroom is brought to you by Herp House Magazine, the premier digital magazine for the reptile hobbyist, and by ColdBlooded Publishing, your exclusive reptile media publishing company. Now, here are John and James in the Reptile Livingroom.
Hey, John, are you there?
How are you there?
Pretty good.
Good.
We got another great.
So far.
Pretty good. Pretty good. We got another great show for us tonight, huh?
Dude, looking at the lineup, I'm still blown away by the lineup. But before we get too deep into that, anything news-wise or anything like that we got to cover?
Actually, I saw a few things come across the feeds this week, but nothing really I wanted to touch on. It's been such a busy week this week that I never wrote anything down to catch on the news or even, promote. So, other than that, the only thing I have that I'd like everybody to know is Snake Days right around the corner. Next week is Snake Days. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's next weekend. So if anybody can make it out to West Texas, Sanderson, check it out. They got a bunch of stuff going on. And I know Jeff Adams had posted that there was cabins open and camping spots still open. So if anybody wanted to go camp out for the weekend, it'd be a great time. Very
cool. Very cool. Now, to basically bring everybody to speed here, what we're doing tonight is basically art and reptiles, or herpetoculture and artwork. And we're joined by three of the most well-known artists today in herpetology and herpetoculture. Our first one on the list will be Natalie Beto, resides in New York, or based in New York, however you want to take that. She, I believe, has, if I'm not mistaken, Bachelor of Fine Arts from Parsons School of Design with concentration in illustration. And I thought she had another degree, but that could have been just me making up things about Natalie that aren't true. She's an incredibly talented artist. I think everybody in herpetoculture has at least had one of their logos during their time frame done by her. Really incredible artist. Then we are joined by, as well, Shannon Hammer. And Shannon, excuse me, is in, I had it in my show notes, there it is, Boyertown, Pennsylvania, in a log cabin in the woods. And she was actually talking about internet speeds today, and I've actually come to realize that living in Canada has its attractions, such as internet speed. Evidently, Canada's not too top on the internet speeds, but we're still working on that. She has a studio in Pennsylvania, full-time artist, stay-at-home mom, 70-ish plus snakes keep her busy. And I think she was just talking to us earlier today, Jimmy, about she just had some eggs laid. Is that correct?
Yeah. Actually, she was telling me earlier in the green room that she had eggs laid the day after she moved. So she had just recently moved out to the woods in a new house, and she had a nice little present the following day. So
that's awesome. Presents are always good. I always enjoy presents. And speaking of presents, a present that needs no other mention other than name alone, of course, we are referring to the world-renowned Mr. Tell Hicks. This was kind of a shot in the dark for Jimmy and I got to be honest, and I'm going to throw Jimmy under the bus completely. We were actually talking about, getting Mr. Hicks on the show, and we made references to, Ice Cube chants and, where, and just because Mr. Hicks is so well known, we didn't think that we would actually get him on the show. And I sent Mr. Hicks a message. Next thing I know, I think it was within 48 hours, James called me up screaming about something that we'd gotten some artist on the phone, or he had talked to some artist or something like that. All joking aside, welcome all of our wonderful artists, and of course Mr. Hicks joined us from the very early UK. I still don't understand how James convinced them to come on at, dark 30 in the morning over there, but that's what James does. So we have a great show for you folks. Welcome to all of our guests. We, of course, have Chad Burns over there without a camera this evening, so there won't be any cheesecake episodes. I had to bring it up. So, Jimmy, gosh, where do we start with our artists? I mean, I don't even know.
They have such wonderful artwork present and I mean, continuing. I think we should save the best for last, but if that was the case, we'd have all three of them on right at the same time.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's really a toss-up. I really enjoy a lot of their artwork, but because they each have their own, little style, and I think Natalie, her artwork is probably some of the most recognizable that I've seen, just as a digital image that have been scoured throughout social media. So why don't we start with Natalie tonight and talk about some of her images. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Hi.
All right. So our basis of the show, and I'll let John go ahead, is we typically start with, how'd you get interested in reptiles?
My brother-in-law took me to my first reptile expo in White Plains about, I think, like 8 or 9 years back, and my first snake was a ribbon snake. And yeah, after that, I just started getting more. And then I moved on to spiders, and then geckos. And then, yeah, and then I just started drawing them because I love art. I love animals. Yeah.
Now, Natalie, what made you decide to choose the medium that you decided to work with, as far as like Mr. Hicks would do oil or acrylics, and you may do oil and acrylics as well. I'm not positive. I just know that it seems the mainstay is a digital art form or a sculptural one. What made you choose those mediums over the others?
I chose digital first because, well, in school it's like we had to get our own materials for stuff. Most of the stuff I bought was for the classes, and I couldn't really afford to get materials to just play around with. So the cheapest one was to do digital art, to invest in a tablet, and then I can just do as much as I could, like just have fun with it. And yeah, that was the main reason why I started doing digital work.
Okay, very cool. Now, as far as the digital works, how do you have an actual count of how many images you've actually created since you started?
No.
I mean, is there any way? Okay, I didn't think so. I always like to throw that out there to artists just to see if they're actually, could give me a physical count of, the amount of artwork that they've done over the years. Now, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Ms. Shannon Hammer. Shannon, can you talk to us a little bit about how you got started in the art and reptile world?
Okay, so, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's breaking up a little bit. Alright, so, basically when I was about 10 years old, I was in the yard of my grandparents' farm, and there was a garter snake slithering in front of me, and my dad told me, it's a garter snake, it's okay, you can pick it up. And I picked it up, and it bit the crap out of me, and then it pooped all over my arm, and, I've loved snakes ever since that moment. So, I know that's interesting, but that's pretty much. From that point on, I wanted a pet snake, and my dad was all for it. My mom was dead set against it, and it took me about 4 years to convince her to let me get a snake. And I got my first, which was a California king snake, and slowly but surely. I don't know. From then on, it just took off.
And it grew into what you have now.
Yes, it did, and I have my dad and my mom to thank for that because once my mom realized it wasn't so bad, they started to encourage me to learn more about reptiles, and my dad had me some really nice caging built when I was about 16, and you know that was really big, a great thing, and I still use that caging to this day. And he started taking me to reptile shows, and he got me a couple more reptiles, and I just I just eventually built up a really nice collection, and yeah, I have about 70 snakes now.
And how many eggs do you have this year so far?
Right now I have about probably I guess over 100 now cooking. Some of those might be bad. I did have one clutch that I don't think I got to in time, which I feel terrible about. But other than that, it's been a decent season despite having just moved.
Right, right. So Shannon, let's move forward on your type of artwork. I mean, you were voted Artist of the Year on the Reptile Report People's Choice Awards. And so what really got you into making sculptures? Because they're wonderful. I mean, they're unbelievable. Some of them you can't even tell if they're real or fake. So what made you get into that arena versus maybe painting or, digital art like Natalyn does?
Well, basically, when I first started sculpting, I was in high school, and obviously I've always been into art. I used to do strictly drawing with pencils, and I took every art class that I could in high school, and I took some ceramics classes, and I also took some other classes that introduced me to the medium of polymer clay. And I didn't really do much with it until my senior year. I had an assignment in my AP art class, and I just kind of whipped up a dragon like out of nowhere, and I had no idea I could even sculpt. So, um, it just I really and after I left high school, I didn't really do anything with it for a while. Um, I started to like look for some snake jewelry to wear, and I realized there's not a whole lot out there that's not the gaudy like snakes with big fangs sticking out of their mouths and like oversized heads and like the generic snake jewelry that we see everywhere all of the time. And I initially I did start my sculpture work. I did start with painting, but as time went on, I got a little, I don't want to say bored with it. I mean, I like it, but I just decided to, I don't know, I just thought, what if I just experimented with just using colored clays and nothing else? And that's how that got started. When I first started out, my initial work looked nothing like, it looked very primitive compared to what I do now.
Well, that goes with same, I guess, with every artist too. You have to start somewhere, right? So
yes, definitely, absolutely.
And I've seen some of your earlier works, and some of your most renowned ones are some of the stuff you sold to Ben Siegel. Wasn't it Ben Siegel that you sold a rainbow boa to in a water dish?
Yes, yeah. Yep, that would be the first in the water dish line that I plan to keep going with. That was an experimental piece. Yes, he did buy that.
Great, great. Well, let's move on to Tell, because I'm really interested to hear how he got started. I mean, I've read many of the articles about Tell, but Tell, can you tell us how you got involved in reptiles, not just painting, but involved in reptiles?
Well, I was brought up in London, and we moved out of London when I was 9. Can you hear me? You can hear me, okay?
We can hear you.
Good. And at the age of 10, discovered a colony of northern vipers, European vipers, and from then on, I was hooked. Every spare minute was spent studying them, sketching them. I met up with a famous herpetologist, Tony Phelps, who now works out in Africa, and we teamed up together. Did a lot of conservation work in the UK. Actually did work that got our most endangered reptiles protected by law. Went on to work in zoos. I was just fortunate to meet some really great people. It was a great start for someone who was eventually going to go on and become a herpetological artist. As a teenager, messing around with cobras and things. At 19, went off, hitchhiked around Europe, through Asia, and eventually to Australia, catching reptiles on the way. That's about it, really.
Just traveling around the world, capturing reptiles, drawing them, that's all.
I do keep some reptiles, but I still travel a lot. And my wife, Eileen, was brought up in South Africa, or Rhodesia. And as a child, it was instilled into her, if you see a snake, run away, because they did get cobras in the house. And so she hates looking after the snakes. So I just keep fox snakes. I keep eastern and western fox snakes. And I breed those, and I've been breeding those for the last 10 years or more. I've got a few toads, a few turtles, but most things go outside during the summer, so very low maintenance.
Very nice. Now, as far as individual studios, Mr. Hicks, what is your preference of working areas? Do you prefer an easel or a flat on the desk, or?
It depends on what I'm working on.
Okay.
I use an easel most of the time. If it's something fairly small, I'll work flat with that. If I'm doing a T-shirt design, it's a matter of using a pen and ink, so you can't use an easel for that, so it has to be flat. I usually have 2 or 3 projects on the go at any one time. So the way I work in oil and in very thin layers. So it's more convenient to put something to one side and start on something else, rather than risk smudging or ruining the painting. Plus, it keeps you kind of fresh. Sometimes I wake up and I think I've been thinking about how I was going to produce a certain effect. So it's nice to have something there to work on. Next day I might want to work on something else. So you're fresh and you're excited about the work, rather than plodding on trying to get the same painting finished. Because some of the paintings take months.
That was actually going to be my next question for the panel. Natalie, if we could start with you. How long, because I know I've purchased some artwork from you before, and the turnaround time that it seems like Natalie has is just astronomical. I mean, it was like 2 days later, and she had a full-on drawing, and it was just spectacular. What is the general turnaround time? And like I said, starting with Natalie, and does it depend on? Obviously, it depends on size, but outside of size, how long does it usually take to produce one of your works, Natalie?
Yeah, it depends on the subject too. Like the daily creature ones, those usually take me maybe a day. That's it. I work pretty fast too, because like at Parsons, it's like it was an intense course. Like we would have. I don't know, at freshman year I was taking like 9 classes. I was taking a lot. And then my studio class was like 6 hours long. It was intense. And like going home, homework took up a lot of my time, and I had like English classes too. So it just prepped me to work fast.
I guess so. And now you're doing sculpture as well. So you're kind of have your feet in both pools, really, as far as an artist doing sculpture and painting. Is that difficult to transfer to, as far as when you're?
No, I don't think so. I started doing sculptures only because during like the oil spill, I started making little turtles to sell them to try to raise money for the animals, and that's how I started sculpting. 'Cause, yeah.
Wow, amazing.
And then it just moved on from there. People were asking me to draw, to sculpt other animals, and started sculpting them. Then I made some creatures for my thesis, my senior thesis.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you were actually doing some. I wouldn't consider it horror artwork, but it was more of a demonic creature kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
And did you? I don't want to say evolve away from that, but I noticed you moved more towards the animals. Was that something as far as just for you personally, or was that more driven by a community sales thing, or what drove you to move away from the darker creatures and into the animal stuff more?
I think that had to do with commissions and stuff. Mainly people commission animals. I miss doing creatures. Like that's what I started doing in school, and I love it. Like I love designing them, but I don't have the time to do them right now.
Right.
Hopefully in the future, I will again. It's just, yeah, it's kind of tough because I've been like, my main focus right now is to pay off like student loans. That's it. Get that over with, and then I can like focus. You know, like, yeah, it's a struggle, but it's in progress.
Wow. Now, moving on to Shannon. As far as Shannon, you're concerned, or as far as you're concerned, you're doing mainly sculpture. Do you have many projects at the same time going, or is it just you focus on one project and then finish that one out to move on, or take us through it?
It really depends. It depends on a lot. The past few months for me have not been very productive, just because of the whole having to pack up my entire life and moving it kind of thing. But on average, I would say one sculpture, depending on what I'm sculpting, how much detail is in the pattern, it takes me anywhere from 1 to 48 hours to complete. One being something really simple, like a snake that has one color on its body, whereas something like the gaboon vipers that I did, those took me a long time. I really don't know, and I usually do have more than one thing going at once, because the nice thing about polymer clay is I can put it down, walk away from it, and come back a year from now, and as long as I've kept it covered and dust-free, it's still totally workable. And usually I try to multitask. I'm not a very good multitasker. I kind of put my heart and soul into one thing at a time, and I will stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning to finish it. So that's how that works for me.
Awesome. Now, as far as polymer clay is concerned, just for our audience and education, what is the difference between, say, like a potter's clay and a polymer clay that you work with? If you can give us some...
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, polymer clay is oil-based, so it's very different from like a traditional ceramic clay. Ceramic clay is water-based, so as you work it, it tends to dry out, and you have to keep it at the right moisture and so on and so forth. Whereas polymer clay, I work mine on a flat glass surface. It doesn't dry out at all unless you accidentally subject it to too much heat, and then you've pretty much ruined it. But polymer clay is fired at a much lower temperature than a ceramic clay, so there's that. You need a kiln to fire ceramic clay, whereas polymer clay you can fire in a conventional oven at 275 degrees.
Very cool. I did not know that. I'm actually might look into polymer clay now.
Very interesting. I actually I didn't know that either.
I know, that's a trip. I didn't know. As far as clay was concerned, I thought it, automatically required a kiln. Now, my next question, and actually I'll direct this at Mr. Hicks to start off the next question series with. As far as colors in your paintings, Mr. Hicks, I mean, I know it's possible because obviously I can see it, but I mean, I see the tubes of paint in, you know, the various art stores around town, and none of them look like any of the colors that I see in your paintings. Is that like a trade secret or something? Or, I mean, how do you pull this off?
I use store-bought paints. I used to work in egg tempera, which is something that was around since the 1st century AD. And it was the paint that was used before they invented oil paint. And you actually mix the pigment, grinding the pigment, which are earths and ochres, with egg yolk. And it's surprisingly very permanent as a paint. But I worked in tempera for about 9 years, developed techniques that I didn't want to lose. I had to change to oil paint because everybody says, egg what? What the hell? I'm commissioning a painting made of eggs. So I found an oil paint, which is a fast-drying oil paint. And it's produced by Winsor & Newton and called Alkyd. And it uses a resin rather than an oil as a binding medium. Very permanent, excellent paintings. And it's perfect for me because I can work at shows and pack the thing up at the end of the day, and it's not going to get smudged. It dries fairly quickly. And it allows me to do the thin layers of paint that I developed with egg tempera.
Wow.
But no, there's no reason why the colors should be any different from what you're used to.
And I think I can speak for everyone that's ever seen, you know, the artwork that our panel has produced. Not just Mr. Hicks, but Natalie and Shannon as well has produced some artwork that looks like it would literally walk off the table or walk off the wall or fly off the wall, depending on the creature that they've done. Just some amazing, amazing artwork. I have to turn it over to Jimmy real quick here so we can let our audience know about all the different ways that they can interact with the live broadcast. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy for a couple seconds here.
Yeah, and actually, I'm just going to go to one because that's pretty much what we've been doing, driving most of the traffic to YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, all you have to do is make a comment in the comment section below the video. If you happen to be watching us on G Plus event page, same thing. Just go to the comment section below the video and then just put in your comment question. We have some questions up already, so just continue to add them. We'll get to them in a question and answer. We're going to take a short little break right now so everybody can get a drink of water. We'll be back in probably about 90 seconds and enjoy our sponsors here. So we'll be right back, guys. All right, we're back from the break. John, you there? Or are you stepped away? Anyway,
Yes, sir. I'm here. Sorry about that.
I wanted to before we start this next section, I want to discuss some things that have been going on with Reptile Living Room, and of course, some of our sponsors. Let's talk about one of our sponsors, HerpHouseMag.com. What does Herp House Mag have coming up in the lineup for the next week or so that's going to be premiered?
Oh, geez. Herp House Mag, we have a build your own digital reptile library where essentially we come up with the idea of, we produced, for those that aren't familiar with HerpHouseMag.com or Herp House Mag, period, Herp House Mag basically takes talented writers from all walks of life, all knowledge bases, puts them all together in a single magazine, and produces that magazine in a digital format, which you can take with you anywhere, on your phone, tablet device, PC, Mac, whatever it is, any electronic device that you can read a PDF, you can get our magazine.
And it's digital only?
Yes, sir. Digital only, not in print. No advertisements except for one page, which is directly in the back of the magazine. And that one page is portioned out specifically for the writers that participate in the magazine. And it's a business card size ad. That's the only advertisement. We're completely subscriber based and supported. So if you don't have a subscription, please do go to herphousemag.com/subscribe. Grab yourself a subscription. And we also have an affiliate program currently available for sign up as well. And the Build Your Own Reptile Library section, what that is we've taken every single article from the entire, our fourth year now, that we're working on, and put it all on one single page so you can actually buy the single articles by themselves for 99 cents a piece.
Wow. So that means if you don't want to read a lizard article and you're just in the snakes, you can just go buy all the snake articles versus buying a subscription. I recommend, I read it every month. I actually write a column along with my business partner, Doug Mung. We write a column, ColdBlooded Corner, for the magazine. But I've been reading the magazine. I ran across this magazine a few years ago, and just the fact that it doesn't have ads in it is unbelievable. I mean, there's many other magazines out there, and it's just loaded with ads, small content. And the content in this one is extreme for sure. So looking forward to seeing all that come out, John.
Yeah,
especially
we're trying for tomorrow or this evening for the Build Your Own Reptile actual page to be up and functional the way it should be. We did a soft launch, and there was a couple aspects that we didn't like about it, so we did some changes on it, and we're hoping it's going to be ready by Monday of next week at the latest.
Well, good luck with it. I wish you the best on it, of course.
Yeah. All that coding fun.
Yep. All those late nights with a bunch of text. So, well, let's get back to the topic of the show because I'm super excited with this panel. And just to let our audience know, I will be bringing up some images of works that these artists have done, and I actually like to get started with some of them. And just because I have her in a list here as number one in my list, in my queue, I'm going to go ahead and start with Natalie Beto. And I'd like to throw this image up there. And, John, let me know when you can see it.
Oh, yeah, the bearded dragon.
So anybody that wants to see Natalie's images, right at the bottom of the screen, you can see her website address. Jot it down. I'll put it up in all the links on YouTube and in the description as well. But, Natalie, can you give me some idea of what inspired you to create this one? Was it a job or was it something offhand?
Oh, that one was well, my boyfriend's nephews. We just recently started introducing them into reptiles, and they have a beardy. We got them a beardy, and they love beardies. So I made this one just so I can make little magnets and stuff for them. It's a daily creature. Yeah.
That
Great.
Awesome. So cool. And how old are the nephews, if you don't mind me asking?
One is 6, 5, and 10, I think.
Awesome. Very cool.
Absolutely.
Always start them out young.
All right. You got any more questions for Natalie on this image there, John?
Not this particular image, no.
Okay. I'm going to move on to Shannon Hammer because when I grabbed this image from her, it took me a little while to really understand what it was. I'm thinking a wine glass. John, let me know when the image pops up. You should see it here in a second. Shannon, do you see the image?
Yeah, I see it.
I do. Oh, it's gone.
All right. Actually, you should see it now. All right. Can you give me a little insight on this? Is it a wine glass?
Well, it's technically a hurricane glass. But yes, for all intents and purposes, yeah, it's a wine glass. I painted. This was just a boredom project of mine. I really wanted to experiment with. First of all, I hadn't picked up a paintbrush in years, and I decided to just try painting some glassware. And this was an experimental piece, and it kind of just sits on my bar now, looking pretty.
Is it for sale?
Very pretty indeed, by the way.
No. This one's not for sale. This is actually a painting of one of my personal snakes. This is the glass also holds some sentimental value, so this is more just something I did for myself, and also as an experimental piece because in the future I do plan to offer things like that for sale.
Great, great. John, you got anything else for this one?
I'm just amazed at the detail. And it's on glass. I mean, painting alone is hard enough, but painting on glass, that's just amazing talent.
It's not terribly different from traditional painting. Basically, you buy a special kind of enamel that's made for glass painting, and then you apply it to the glass. You have to layer it a little more because you are painting on a see-through material, so if you want it to look nice and opaque, you really have to layer it a lot. And then you cure it in an oven, and then this piece is actually dishwasher safe. Obviously, I would recommend just a gentle hand washing, but you know, the stuff's pretty well on there. It's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat thing.
Yeah, I would recommend just putting it up on the mantle and enjoying the workmanship. That's what
that's what I'd be doing with it.
So, all right. Oh, and by the way, Shannon Hammer's Facebook page is down below. It's facebook.com ColdBlooded Creations. Oh, I'm trying to read backwards. Sorry, guys.
Facebook.com /cold-blooded creation art.
There you go. There you go. So be sure to visit her page, like it. She's an award-winning, People's Choice Award-winning from last year. She's got amazing artwork there as well. So let's move on to Tell, because there's so many pictures that Mr. Hicks has done that kind of blow me away. I'll save my favorite for last, but let's go ahead and take this one, Tell, because this one's pretty well known. I've seen this one floating around. And there it is.
All right. Well, that's Jim. That's Jim Peller. Do you know Jim? He's a fairly famous herping guy. Lives out in the Canary Islands. And he used to have a reptile park. And I was at the expo down in Daytona one year, at the icebreaker evening, and they'd flown Jim in to give a talk. And I've known Jim for a number of years. He's a fellow Brit. He came up to me and he said, "I want you to paint my portrait, because I do portrait work as well." And I said, "Well, I've got my camera. I can get some shots." So he said, "No, I want it with my Komodos." He was keeping Komodos and went on to breed Komodos. And so I said, "Well, I can add the Komodos in." And he thought for a minute, and then he said, "No, I'll fly you out to my place, in the Canary Islands off the coast of Africa. And we get all the photos together, yeah. So the next week I was off the coast of Africa in the Canary Islands, messing around with Jim and his Komodos. So that's how the painting came about. He actually sat on an old log, a fallen tree, by the side of his house, and was actually patting his little Spanish spaniel. And I substituted his Komodo there, so it looks as if he's actually stroking the Komodo.
Oh, so that was going to answer my next question right there. Is if he actually got those Komodos to sit still for you?
Yeah. No, I added them in, and the background is from the Komodo Islands. That's a scene from the islands of Komodo. So that's the way I work. I tend to sort of put things together, rather than work from just a photograph.
Right.
Obviously, doing the work that I do, taking such a long time to do the work, it's just not practical. I used to do life drawing. I used to do painting models from life. But all my work's done to commission these days, and there's a waiting list of work to do. So I tend not to do a huge amount. A lot of the paintings involve something from life, whether it be the foliage or rocks and things that the animals are on.
I gotcha. Now, Mr. Hicks, where would you say is the most unusual place that you've actually gone to do or to even study a subject to paint?
Well, that's a hard one. I traveled through places like Iran and Afghanistan and places like that years ago, which would be very dangerous to do these days.
For sure.
Last year we were down in Peru, in the Amazon. The year before that, the Komodo Islands, which I think probably the Komodo Islands are the most amazing place to visit. But this place, Australia is a great place for herping. New Zealand's got some really cool lizards. Yeah.
All right. Very cool.
Hard to say where, really.
What's that?
Hard to say which would be my favorite.
Okay. Understandable. Now, where do you find yourself most at home when working? Is it actually at home, or do you like working in the park, or where would you say is the favorite space to work in?
I don't know. I've been traveling so much over the years. I do a lot of work in America, just doing demonstrations at the shows.
Okay.
And I've been working on, well, you'll probably get round to one of my rattlesnake paintings.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, we will.
Yeah, well, I'll go into it there. I've been working on a book on rattlesnakes for about 6 or 7 years now. So, and that's involved going out in the field, catching them. It's a book on rattlesnakes of Arizona. And it's taken me out there every year out into the desert looking for stuff. But not just Arizona, there's the Southwest, Texas and New Mexico.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, turning this over to Natalie Beto, Natalie, where would be your favorite space to work in?
At home. At my desk. Yeah.
Whoops. So you have an actual desk set up specifically for drawing and what have you?
Yeah, it's right next to my pets.
Awesome.
Daily inspiration.
That's something that I've noticed with you particularly is when you're working, you'll actually have your pets out in the actual workspace with you. Do you find that distracts you at all from working, or is it more of an inspirational kind of thing?
No, it's inspirational. Some of my little guys are like my models for my work, and it's just easier to work seeing a live model. I'm used to working with live models from like school and stuff. And like, for example, like a Leo, I didn't have a Leo before, and I recently got a Leo. Like when you see a Leo in person compared to like a photo, it's completely different. Like they're beautiful. It's insane.
Very true. Leos are very cool animals. I definitely dig them myself. I've had probably about 3 or 4 now since I've been keeping reptiles, and
Awesome.
they're incredibly curious animals and very interesting to watch. And I definitely like the tail shake when they get excited about crickets or some other bug that happens to be in their vicinity of being caught. It looks like Timmy threw up. If I'm not mistaken, that would be a lychee or it's a Racodaclys. I know that.
What's that? Oh, that's Krusty.
Oh, that's a Cresty. Okay, gotcha.
That's my Loki.
Oh, that's Loki. Okay, so I was just about to ask you that. Is that one of yours, or is that one that we,
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, Shannon, same question to you over there. Where's your favorite space to work in, as far as when you're doing your art and what have you?
Well, that would be my desk/studio, which would be it's a pretty large area. It takes up most of our spare bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a ton of material. I mean, I have thousands of dollars invested into my art stuff. It's been a slow building process over the years, but buying a house is what I was gearing up for, because now I have the space for future projects such as metalworking, ring making, casting. I'm going to be expanding into a lot of things.
Wow. Okay. And how? When do you expect that expansion to happen? Do we have a plan for that yet, or?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, polymer clay will always be my the thing that I do all the time, but I've already started playing around with the metals a little bit. It's a very different material. I'm not used to it yet, so I need to practice more. I would say probably within about a year I should be doing more casting. I want to start providing more affordable things to some of my customers who really like my work but can't afford a full commission because it's rather pricey, and I want to try to help everyone out, as best I can with that.
For sure. And actually, 2 points that you brought up will actually bring me to my next point in regards to artwork and Mr. Hicks. Speaking of metal, you are either currently working on or it's actually finished. I'm not sure which yet because I haven't been able to get out there and visit it yet. The Chiricahua Desert Museum. You are working on a metal sculpture of one of my favorite animals, rattlesnake tail. Is that project been completed, or is it still in the works?
Oh yeah. That got finished a couple of years ago.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
that was a project I worked with Charlie Painter, the state herpetologist for New Mexico, and Mike Hill. It was something I was going to. It was going to be a project I was going to work on alone, but Charlie, not only being a top herpetologist, he's a top metal worker as well. So he asked if he could get involved, and I was delighted to have him and Mike on board with that one. It stands on its plinth, probably 18 feet high.
Wow.
I designed and built a replica of it out of cardboard that was a third actual size, and I sent across I think 36 sheets of foolscap sheets of specifications. There were I took measurements of the entire thing as I built it so that it could be scaled up and then the metal cut by Charlie, and he spent the whole winter cutting the metal ready. There were something like 25 different shapes and sizes of scales. It's just the tail, but there's an anal plate and everything on there. It's
Right.
fairly accurate. And I flew out there, and we hired a crane to put it, stand it up, and spend a few weeks welding all the plates together. And yeah, it's quite a landmark now. You get parties of people pulling up because it's out in the parking lot outside of the Chiricahua Desert Museum in Rodeo, New Mexico. So lots of people pull up, have their photos taken next to it. It's pretty cool.
I would imagine so.
Well,
I still have yet to see it, but I do intend to see it one of these days, eventually.
talking about big structures, we actually have somebody on Facebook, Mr. Hicks. Sherry Ashley wants to tell you hello, and we miss you watching the live feed right now. So they're watching you. And she wants to know, she has a question for you, Mr. Hicks. She wants to know who in their right mind will ride a rhino.
This is obviously in reference to a picture I put on Facebook yesterday. An image from my misspent youth as a rhino rider. It was when I was working in Taronga Zoo in Australia back in 1971. And I had long blonde hair. Stephen Kesey emailed me today. He said I look like Dave, who's the guy who plays with Megadeth? Moraine? Dave Moraine? He's also seen pictures of me, other pictures of me with the long hair. But then somebody else said I look like Barry Manilow, so I can't look too cool, yeah.
Unbelievable.
It might be cool, but you'll never be Tell Hicks riding a rhino cool. You know,
there's not many people can say they've ridden on a black rhino.
No, sir. You'd be the only one that I know of in my small circle of friends that I have. You would definitely be the first.
Yeah, it was in the days before all the health and safety regulations came in, but it was probably still a sackable offence for me to do that at the time.
And we have a question, James, from for Shannon on the YouTube channel. Do you see that? Your mic's off, James.
Oh.
There
All
we
right.
go.
Here we go. And hopefully you guys can see it. And it says, for Shannon, what was the most difficult sculpture you had to tackle?
I would say that would have to be a tie between probably my Gaboon Viper and the Baby Curious Jacksoni, the tree bark scorpion, which was insanely difficult.
Tree bark scorpion, like the little small guys?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was a pendant-sized sculpture that someone commissioned, and I was pretty accurate with it. I counted all the segments on the body of them, and I made it accurate to segment and all of that.
Shannon, is it
Yeah,
on?
it took a long time, and also, yes, it is. It's in one of those collages that I sent you.
Let's see here.
Nope, not that one.
See if I can bring it up.
There's one with bugs.
Oh, there we go.
And I think it's this one right here.
Yeah. Actually, all of those invertebrates, they're really hard to sculpt because you have to be really careful because polymer clay on its own, it's not terribly strong. So you have to know how to support it. And especially because I couldn't just, I couldn't just make the legs and kind of bend them around. I had to use an internal. There's wire inside of every one of those legs. So that was a whole new challenge for me. But you know, I completely winged it. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what I did.
I tell
The
you
boom
what.
viper, those were hard too.
Yeah, that Kaboom Viper actually was pretty good, and I know I have that on a collage. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at that too in a little bit. Any more questions, John? I think I have a few more, but I'll go ahead and wait. We can just carry on. Your mic's off, sir.
Darn it, I hate that part. I need a remote to turn the mic on and off. Yes, we have a question for Natalie from Francisco, and I'm sorry, Francisco, if I murdered your last name. It looks like Davila. I'm just going to go with the Francisco part. Natalie, can you tell us about all the different original things you use, like the artist conch, actual wood cookies?
Yeah, I like working on wood. I like painting on wood.
Okay.
Well,
And,
like mainly for commissions, though. I can't really do them for fun, because
oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
Now, is there more detailed work that goes into making those wood plaques than, say, a normal? I say normal, like I do it. Is there more of a skill level that goes into the woodworking as far as painting on wood or working with wood at all?
I think it's the same for it's just a different medium. I use acrylics to paint on it. All the wood I get is salvaged from trees that have already died. I don't go buy wood like at the store or whatever. They're like my boyfriend works for the parks department, and he's an arborist, so he removes dead or deceased or damaged trees. So I just repurpose all that wood for art, give it another life.
That works. That works for me. I like that. Now, Mr. Hicks or Shannon, whoever would like to take the next question, what is the most unusual medium that you've used to date? And looks like Mr. Hicks would be able to answer first.
I put my mic on. That didn't mean to say. I'll come up with a thought for that. No, let Shannon have a go.
Okay.
I'll think about it.
No worries. Shannon, what would be the most unusual medium that you've ever worked in?
That would have to be some hairs from my cat.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one. Sorry.
Well, a friend of mine about a year ago commissioned me to make actually a sculpture of a mouse for her boyfriend at the time, and he'd lost a very dear pet. He was a little mouse named Henry, and when it came to do the whiskers, I realized, I can't make the whiskers out of clay. They'd be way too thick. So I looked at my cat, and he's white, and he sheds a lot, and I was like, well, I might as well just grab some of these, and I trimmed them down, and I coated them with a little bit of resin to stiffen them up, and it actually worked out really nice. And I told my friend up front, I said, look, I'm going to use a couple hairs from my cat for the whiskers. I hope you don't mind. And she was totally cool with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever told anyone that before, but
oh, all the deep dark secrets are coming out now about all the artists.
Nothing like having a mouse with cat hairs on it.
Yeah, there's no irony in that
yeah,
at
it's
all.
a little. I know it's strange.
That is awesome. Okay, Mr. Hicks, how about your most unusual medium that you've ever worked in?
I've been trying to think of something unusual. I always try and use the very best materials, most permanent materials. So there's not really, I don't experiment too much with anything too unknown.
Right.
One material I did use and would never use again. I did a big mosaic of a Gila Monster, 8 foot by 4 foot mosaic, and we used actual floor tiles, real hard, thick floor tiles, which I cut by hand with just a pair of nippers,
Wow.
and actually built the mosaic in situ. So I was out in the blazing sun, chipping away at these bits of tile to set down in cement, and I will never do that again. It was a labour of love.
And that's
Imagine.
that Gila Monster is also at the museum. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, as at the entrance of the museum as you go in. I was trying to do it in the sun by 11 o'clock in the morning. The sun was so hot, I was just getting blistered up. Decided we'd try and do it at night, thinking it's going to be a lot cooler, and set up some lamps to work by, which attracted every single flying insect for about 100 miles. And they were hitting this lamp constantly and showering down on me, beetles and things. And within a day or two, all the tarantulas and scorpions in that area realized that this was the best place to come for lunch. So I was having to move tarantulas and scorpions off. And then when I was having to wash my trowel and the bucket I was mixing the cement in, the only tap was around the side of the museum. There was no lights there, and there were Mojave rattlesnakes everywhere. So I was having to sort of walk along, stamping my feet in the hope that I didn't tread on a rattlesnake as well. So it wasn't an enjoyable project to work on, but the finished result, I think everyone was happy with.
Very cool. And it is a very beautiful mosaic, I must say. And now, as far as mosaics and all the animals, all of our panelists have either painted or worked with, what would you say? What animal for you, Mr. Hicks, would draw your attention the most? Not particularly a favorite animal, but one that you enjoy more drawing or sculpting or over another one.
I have a passion for reptiles. That's obvious.
Yeah.
I'm also interested in all wildlife. But I had a commission to do for a museum in California with thylacine, which is the extinct marsupial wolf, or it's sometimes called the Tasmanian tiger because it's got stripes on it. And I had to do a lot of research for that, and actually came up with some stuff that even the curator of Sydney Museum hadn't noticed. And there was I like to get things accurate, and there were certain things which I was in a dilemma over because there was inconsistency in the accounts written about the animal. So it involved a lot of research, and it's such a neat animal. And they haven't been seen since, I think, 1935. The last one died in Hobart Zoo. And it's an animal which fascinated me as a child. The fact that they could still survive. People keep saying that they've seen it, but there's never been any proof. And so it's a really interesting animal. Pretty cool.
Very true. And I'm definitely a big fan of the thylacines myself. The photographs and I think the one black and white video clip that shows the thylacine pacing back and forth that everybody's so familiar with.
That'd be one from the Hobart Zoo, yeah.
Right. Such a tragic loss that those creatures Well, maybe not a Trigicloss yet, because they're still seen in the wild, supposedly. So we'll see. Now,
Yeah, that was,
Val, what would be your favorite creature, or not, your best creature to work with as far as painting, drawing, or sculpting?
to work with.
Natalie?
Oh, okay. um, tarantulas.
Tarantulas. Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular attraction to the tarantulas, or is it just
I love them.
love tarantulas? Okay. Fair enough. I understand that. I just like rattlesnakes. I don't know what it is. It's just rattlesnakes are cool to me. So I'm totally okay with they're just cool to me. That works for me. Now, Shannon, what would be your favorite animal as far as sculpting and painting, drawing, and what have you? What would be your favorite animal to draw, paint, and sculpt?
That is a loaded question. To be a to be a generalist, I would say snakes. To get a little more specific, I really like venomous snakes. I find the challenge in their heads and their facial shapes. I like a good challenge, and I know that every time I make the sculpture, I always find things afterwards that I want to improve on next time around. So I like the challenge of something a little harder than a typical colubrid head, which is just kind of round. And when I get around to it, I want to make myself a Trimerosaurus, a Sri Lankan pit viper. That would be for personal wear.
Yeah.
Obviously, I won't have time to do that for quite some time. So.
Right. Understandable. All right, and Jimmy, I think we're due for another commercial break. Is that correct? Possibly. I may have lost the host. I don't know. Well,
Actually,
oh, there he is.
Actually, my mic is off. I'm too busy scrolling through all these wonderful images to post up for our audience. So, actually, for this commercial break, we got Shannon Hammer stuff up now. Make sure you go visit our Facebook page. During this next minute and a half, I'm going to rotate through some of the awesome artwork our guests, our panelists have produced. So we're just going to take a quick minute and a half, and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
All right. Actually, we came back on a picture that I wanted to ask Mr. Hicks about. Hopefully everybody can see it. Can you see it, John?
Oh yeah, very definitely.
Mr. Hicks, you have to tell me the story behind this. And I would imagine every animal wasn't in the picture when you painted it, but tell us the story behind this one.
This was a commission probably about 20 years ago, maybe even more. There's a guy who provides animals for films and advertising, and he can supply anything from a flea to an elephant. And he's a personal friend of mine, and he used to come out herping with me many years ago when he was still at school, in fact. And he wanted something for his business. Sorry, I'm gonna just answer this phone in a minute.
That's okay. All right, John, while he's answering the phone. Oh.
That's okay. Yeah, he wanted something that he could put on his business cards and his catalog just to describe his business. And so we got together and one by one we got the animals and put the image together. He still looks exactly the same, this guy, and he's still in business, and he still uses that very same image.
Does he still use the corded phone?
Yeah. So he got his money's worth out of it.
I'm sure he did.
I'm sure he did. Yep. All right. So that's one more from Tell there. Let's go ahead and jump into Natalie's here, and she can explain this one when it pops up.
That's my leopard gecko, Krishna. Yeah. I like drawing daily creatures.
And Natalie, how did you get started doing the daily creature, if you don't mind me asking?
I think that was just for fun. One day I was like, I need to do something for fun, because I was mainly doing commissions and I wasn't doing anything for me, and I was like, let me just sketch something a day, just just to have fun. And then it just developed into colored drawings.
Right. Yeah, go ahead, James.
So, Natalie, how long would it take you to actually do one of these images?
Maybe 4 to 5 hours.
Wow, that quick. And I also saw on, maybe I was mistaken, but aren't some of these images actually going to be printed on fabric soon?
Yeah.
So
I want to start making more stuff.
What's that?
I want to start making more stuff.
What else do you have in the works? I mean, so we have the digital images and stuff. What else do we have in the works from you that we can look forward to?
Well, with these digital images, I plan on making shirts, bags, some pillows, stuff like that. Yeah, I make stickers and magnets. Sticker ones are like, it's this cool fabric material that like grease sticks, so you can like put it wherever and like take it out and put it somewhere else, which is awesome. I like that material.
So it's almost like a reusable kind of.
Yeah.
Wow. That is way cool. And now the stickers and magnets, is that something you just recently started, Natalie?
I was doing the magnets and stickers like during Halloween. It was just like a seasonal thing. I would just make it.
Okay.
Like, I did like zombies for Halloween, and I made some like zombie magnets for Christmas. I made like some Christmas magnets. I didn't make it like a full-time thing.
Right.
Like, because the materials, they weren't cheap. So then I saved up, and now I'm starting to make them like for everything.
You know, and actually, speaking of inexpensive or cheap, that's something that always comes about. It seems like when I talk to artists, and being a writer myself, I know the feeling. How do you, without going too in depth into personal, expenses or anything like that, how do we establish? Because we always see it. It seems like I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. It seems like all the customers want the artist to work for free.
Yeah.
How do you get around that without being just flat out, look, I spent, 12, 16 hours on this. Quit being a jerk and pay me my money. I mean, because that's the way I would be about it. I would just, and
Yeah.
all of you folks are so professional, and it's like, I just don't, how do you work around that?
Fortunately, I haven't dealt with a lot of negative humans
Okay.
that approached me like that. I mean, I've had some people come up to me and ask me to like design a logo for free. I would do it for free if it was for like a nonprofit organization, because that's, they do awesome things to help out. That's the only time I would do something for free. But other than that, I tell them straight up, like, no. Like, yeah.
For sure. Jimmy, did you want to throw down on that question that just came up on YouTube? Your mic's off, sir.
Go ahead and let me see if I can pull it up, because it's not coming up right at the moment. But go ahead and read it out of the chat.
Not a problem. For Natalie, what inspires you most when making your art, and what inspired the Daily Creatures? And that comes from a viewer on YouTube.
My daily creatures are mainly inspired by my pets, and I like taking requests from people. I ask them like what animals they would like to see, and I just draw them for fun.
Very cool. And that's something that we don't see too often in the art realm, is artists taking requests like you do from your fans, meaning that you will actually throw it out on Facebook, say, hey, what does everybody want to see today for a daily creature? We don't see a lot of artists doing that. Now, is that something personal that you started to do for yourself, or was that just to, gauge the audience and see what their tastes were, or just kind of a random thing that kind of happened?
I think it started when, like, after I started doing like the daily creatures, like someone just randomly suggested, hey, can you please do this? And I was like, okay. So then I started asking people, what do you want to see? Because it's always cool to see like what people want to see.
For sure. Very definitely. Very definitely. Oh, and that YouTube question came from Valerie Blake. Thank you, Valerie, for listening and watching. We appreciate that always. Now, excuse me. As far as Shannon, if you wouldn't mind jumping in the panel here real quick to answer this next question. As far as the negativity that might come from people wanting free work, what is your best resolution for avoiding situations like that? Or have those situations even come up for you at all?
No, not really. It's pretty much most of the people that tend to act like that are younger, and or simply don't understand what goes into work like that. A lot of inquiries that I get from people, that want, a a sculpture that I would normally charge several $100s for, and they expect to pay me like $30, and I tell them that's not going to work. Usually, I try to explain it thoroughly to them why I charge what I do, and I explain that every piece of color that you see on a sculpture is a placed piece of clay that I've hand mixed to match the colors of the animal. So, most people take it okay. I very rarely run into people that are genuinely negative about something like that, and the majority of the time it's someone who just doesn't understand what an artist does,
Right.
and how long it takes, and how you just pour your whole life into it.
For sure. And Mr. Hicks, the same question for you, sir. Have you run into that yourself, as far as people basically wanting something for nothing?
Yeah, I think you got to expect that, really. Yeah,
Right.
people have this concept of an artist as someone who just spawns around, with nothing to do, more time on their hands than they can deal with. Yeah, I think you've got to expect that. There are also things like certain charities, there's conservation projects which I enjoy actually helping, and by that I mean I'll take on a commission at a much reduced rate, and produce an entire print run for them, so that they can use those prints to raise funds, and that's worked really well, and that's something I enjoy doing. They did that TSA with the Rephaidus, the Yangtze giant softshell turtle, down to just one captive pair in China, and they sold the painting, the original, at an auction to raise money, and sold the entire print run to raise funds. And I've done things for an organization trying to save the Philippine eagle owl. I designed a T-shirt, and funds were raised with that. So that's something I enjoy doing.
Yeah, do you have a favorite?
These days I can't do things for free.
Yeah. Now, is there a single organization that you work with more than another, or do you pretty much generally spread yourself out between all the animal organizations? As far
I
as
try and just respond to whatever I get asked, really. You know,
Gotcha. Now,
I don't have an alliance with any particular group. I don't have an alliance with any one particular group.
Gotcha. Now, Natalie, same question to you. Is there a particular organization or that you enjoy working with or would rather work with more than others, or is it just kind of same as whoever has the need at the time?
I think my two main ones that I do some, I'll do I used to, but I haven't had the time yet. I used to do endangered species for daily creatures, and then all the proceeds from that will go toward an organization that helps wildlife, like the Wildlife Conservation Society or World Wildlife Fund. Yeah.
Okay.
Or donations to USARK.
Right. Gotcha. And Shannon, any charities or anything like that you support at all, as far as with your artwork at all?
So far, my main one has been USARK, as well as not too long ago, maybe about a year ago, I donated a bunch of stuff to Rico Walder's fund to help him in his battle with his cancer. And pretty much anybody that comes forward and asks me, I'll do anything I can to help them. Even on short notice, I'll try to do something. Within reason, I'm willing to help just about anybody that asks me.
Awesome, appreciate that. And one of the comments, I believe it's from YouTube. It says, "Just want to say that all the artistic talent that we have on the panel tonight is great, and some of you are known personally. Wanted to give a shout out to Natalie and Shannon. You guys are awesome." And that was from one of our friends on the YouTube channel there. And let's see here, where were we at? Sorry, just trying to keep track of the comments and my notes at the same time here.
Actually, talking about charity and stuff like that, I noticed today Mike Clarkson had posted something on Raka about an auction selling tickets, and I'm trying to find the post on Facebook, but it was selling tickets for becoming a breeder in a box. It's $35,000 worth of caging from Freedom Breeder. He's got animals donated from various guys, but and that's Raka on Facebook. I guess they're selling the tickets. Each ticket's $20, something like that. If I can find it, I'll post it up. But John, he did being a guest. I think we should give him a shout out again this week.
Yeah, for sure. That Raka stands for the Reptile, Amphibian, and Charity Auctions. hey, look, I didn't murder at that time.
And they support Ozark as well. So
exactly. I think Jordan and Mike should just change the name to something more easily said. That's my opinion. Now, moving back into the artwork here, most of the artists on our panel, I think, work from photographs. Would that be correct? And it's basically an open forum here as far as whoever would like to jump in first. Do most of the artists work from a photograph, or do you prefer to work from live models?
I like working live if I have the animal.
Okay, very cool.
But yeah, some of the animals I can't get, so I work from photos.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And Mr. Hicks, how about yourself, sir?
Yeah, if it's something I can get and bring into the studio, then I'll work from live. But when I work from photographs, I tend to sort of just take a whole bunch of photos from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So a snake, for instance, when I'm out in the desert and we come across a rattlesnake, I'll take pictures from various different angles of different parts of that snake. And then with all that information, I can paint the animal in whatever position I want, knowing that I have the details of the scalation and the markings. And then I can add my own, whatever I want the direction of the sunlight to come from. It's not actually it's not copying a photograph, it's using the photos as reference.
As a reference, right. And just the details that I've seen on, not only Mr. Hicks paintings, but even in Shannon Hammer sculptures and Madeline sculptures, just the fine detail work is just phenomenal. And that's what I still cannot believe that most of the work that you folks have done is from a photograph. I mean, it's just how your mind retains the details of the scalation or the integument of the animals that you guys are drawing or sculpting is just amazing to me. Now, Mr. Hicks, as far as your Gila monsters, were those ones that were in situ in the studio, or were those field photographs that you painted from?
Which ones? I've painted so many.
Yeah, really. Okay, which ones? Huh? Looking at your front page gallery on your website, I believe it's the bottom center one. It looks like he's on a piece of driftwood, possibly.
All right, now that was a commission, and again, that was I based that on photos of a particular animal. The guy who commissioned it wanted that specific animal photographed, but it was in a small plastic tank, and it was impossible to actually get the animal out. It was at a show, and it wasn't allowed to get the animal out. So I was having to photograph bits of the animal that I could see through the lid of a very worn and grubby plastic tank. And then it was a matter of, like I said before, you know how many scales there are going around its leg and where the markings are on that leg, and each part of its body you're able to then reassemble. And the background is an old log that I found, a tree stump that I found out in the desert. And when I found it, I thought, wow, that looks it was so out of place. Must have been hundreds of years old as a living tree, and it had probably been dead for 100 years. It was just a stump, and I could just imagine a healer climbing over it looking for a bird nest or something, for food. So that was an obvious choice, really, for the background. It was all about texture.
Very definitely, very definitely. And unfortunately, we're coming to the close of our show. We're still going to get a couple more questions in, but the famous question that everybody enjoys most from our audience is we asked the panel our one single question: if money was no object and basically you could have anything you wanted, what would be the reptile that you would keep? And we're going to go ahead and throw that out first to Natalie. Natalie, if money was no object and room was no concern, which one would you like? Which animal would you like to own?
A reticulated python.
Reticulated python.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've dealt with those. I'm not a big fan.
No?
They're just big.
I like that.
Huge. That wasn't a favorite snake of mine. They're very beautiful to look at. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like trying to feed them. It usually becomes problematic when they get to adult size. But very cool. Now, Shannon, what about you? What would be if money was no object and room and space wasn't an issue? What would you keep?
Well, I would have to say, if I were to keep venomous, I would love to have Sri Lankan pit vipers.
Nice.
I really like them. My other huge, I'm going to have them eventually, would be Morelia bolani, the Boland's python. I'm really into those. And my other was indigos, but I have indigos now, so that was a dream come true for me, and they're a blessing.
I'm very jealous that you have indigos.
They're absolutely awesome. They're the most wonderful snake. They really are.
I believe it. I truly do. A few of my colleagues own indigo snakes, and I'm very jealous of them as well.
Yeah, I only get to see them out in the wild.
Whatever. You can just go back and turn your camera off, James. I'll just continue the rest of the show without you, thanks. Now, Mr. Hicks, providing that money was no object for you and space was a non-issue, what animal would you keep outside of the black rhino for riding around the backyard?
I don't think it comes down to space or money, really. It's I used to go to Turkey quite a lot, studying reptiles out there, and I fell in love with this tiny little snake called Irenis modestus, which is the Asia Minor dwarf snake. And for a while, I used to keep those. And they're a diurnal snake, insectivorous snake. Just so much fun to see them stalking crickets and chasing things around. And they're so small, you can keep them like a little community of them. I like little obscure things, little subtly marked things. I'm not really into herpetoculture in that morphs, ball python morphs, things like that, do not interest me at all. But natural diversity within species. I love European vipers, so I guess if I had the choice and didn't have grandkids that could get bitten, I would be keeping something like Amidites, Vipera Amidites. I think they're such a cool snake. Maybe Ottoman vipers.
Very cool. Very cool. I know this is one, and it's so strange because some of our other guests that we've talked to in the past on the Reptile Living Room have talked about where they got started as far as getting into reptiles and what they would keep. And it's so interesting to me to see how many people started out with garter snakes or dinosaurs, as Ray Morgan pointed out, and then we all eventually gravitate towards the venomous stuff. It's very interesting. I noticed a pattern like that. Have you seen that at all, James?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm one of those statistics right there myself. But it was actually box turtles for me, which really got me into it. But it's probably because it's most common, one of the most common things that people come across. Garter snakes, box turtles, toads. That's their first interaction with any of these species, typically as a kid, and so that's how it gets there. I think some of the stories that all of our panelists have said are quite interesting on how individualized their first interaction with reptiles is. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, as far as venomous stuff, has any of our panel ever had the distinction of, or I shouldn't say distinction, of being envenomated or anything? You know, what was the most dangerous situation, real quick, for anybody that has been traveling and working with reptiles? Anybody had any experiences they'd like to share?
Yeah, I used to work with Tony Phelps doing conservation work in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and we would catch vipers, mark them, measure them, weigh them, and release them, and then come back in a couple of months' time to see how they'd move within a specific area, trying to work out whether they were maintaining territories or not. And at times we were catching, handling maybe 150 a week. You know, a lot of snakes. So you get a bit careless with them, and I've been envenomated by and had to go to hospital by European vipers. When
Oh.
I'm handling things like cobras in India or
Mhm.
rattlesnakes in America, tend to be a bit more careful. Um, I use the hexagonal armored gloves as a safety precaution.
Mhm.
There have been times when I was with the wife a couple of years ago in one of what was it Joshua Tree National Park. We came across a sidewinder in the middle of a road with lots of cars passing either side of it, and I jumped out of the car and picked the snake up to get it safely off the road. And I was wearing one of these gloves, and I think it bit me about 40 times by the time I was able to release it at the side of the road. And with each bite, I was expecting to feel the fangs coming through. So, uh, yeah, quite hard in your mouth when you're doing stuff like that. But I try and be a bit more careful these days.
Yeah, just a little bit more careful. And I was just informed that by Bruce Riker, so we can all see where this is going to go. Nadeline, he said you lied. You need an eyelash viper, is what you wanted, not the reticulated python.
Yeah. I like venomous snakes, but I can't. I just can't. Like, I would love to have one, but I'm scared. I have respect for them. Yeah. Like, they're beautiful, but I would never want to own one.
Yeah, no, I've owned and worked with venomous snakes before, and I definitely don't want to own them again. It's something that if I was working in a zoo facility, that'd be one thing, but personal residence, I'd have to agree with Tell. You know, there's just too many kids and too many risks involved. Yeah, no. Jimmy, you don't own any venomous stuff, do you? Well, not yet, anyway.
No, not yet. Anyway.
All right.
If anything, of course, it's going to be coral snakes. But of course, the kid's going to be out of the house. You know, that's the main concern. It's probably why I don't work with them now and only photograph them out in the wild. But after talking with Denise Abreu over the past couple weeks since we had her on the show, I tell you what, I'm really interested in the whole coral snake thing from East, West, and South America stuff. So it may be quite interesting in another 15 years for me.
Yeah, yeah. Now, speaking of coral snakes, didn't you have something to show us? Your favorite painting of all time ever done?
Yeah, and actually, Tell has it as his profile picture for G Plus too. So I'm sure it's popped up, but I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up again because this is my most famous work by Tell, and from what I understand, this work is actually out at the museum as well.
That's right. Yeah. I think they've still got the original.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Absolutely. I mean, it's probably. Are you issuing prints of this still, or is
Oh
this
yeah,
one?
we produced a small run of giclée prints. That's prints on canvas, but also print run on paper. It was the actual painting was an afterthought. It's going to be included in the book on Arizona rattlesnakes. But being it's not a rattlesnake, obviously, but being a venomous reptile from Arizona, we thought it would be nice to include that in the book, along with a Gila Monster as well.
Awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's my famous one by Tell, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite pieces, I think it would have to be from Madeline, the sculpture that she did, the Chinese water dragon, or I don't know, that Mr. T BA, the chameleon that we sent over to England. That was a pretty big hit over there, from what I was told. She did a small sculpture of colleague's chameleon, Dave Johnson, and put some gold chains on him because BA was, well, you obviously know what that stood for. He was a little feisty on the chameleon side of the family. I think that was one of my favorite pieces from Madeline. And then from Shannon, my favorite piece from Shannon would be definitely the one that Ben Siegel stole from me, the rainbow boa in the water bowl.
And actually, I'll go ahead and pull that image up because I'm gonna grab one from Shannon because she absolutely nailed this bicephalic Honduran milk snake that's owned by Ben Siegel as well. I mean, if I didn't know that was made out of clay, Shannon, I would bet money that it was actually the real thing. That is one unbelievable piece of artwork there.
Wow, that's very flattering. Thank you. That was there will be more of those coming down the road. We're going to do a signed and numbered kind of thing with Medusa pieces, so you can expect to see more of those in the future.
You got that, John? Start saving your pennies. That's what I want for Christmas.
You know, if now we stop posting so much cool stuff that I can, that I just have to have, I'd be okay. But, it seems like every week she posts something else cool that I gotta have it, so, I might as well just start sending her half my paycheck. I mean, that's just how it's gonna happen.
Well, there's a good thing Tell lives across the pond, because if he was any closer to me, I'd be visiting his house every Friday and going broke.
Well, I think we're going to have to keep you away, or at least pat you down after you leave the Chiricahua Museum once you get out there to visit, too.
Yeah. I'll be out that way. Hopefully next year when I hit Snake Days, I'll head out that way. But let's go ahead and start wrapping things up, and I'd like to start with Tell to wrap up. Tell, where can anybody catch you? I know you're in the UK right now. Will you be back in the States anytime this year? And if so, is anybody going to be able to catch you at any of the reptile shows?
Yeah, sure. NARBC shows. I'll be there to answer questions, and I'll be doing some bit of painting, some demonstrating. Anaheim and Chicago, and I think the Texas show as well.
Great. So you'll be at what is that? Arlington in Texas? Is that the NARBC?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Pomona Super Show, which is in September, and then again the Tinley Park in October, right?
Tinley Park and the Anaheim Convention Center.
Okay.
NARBC.
Great. So if anybody wants to see, are you going to have artwork on display at these shows and also going to be painting at the same time?
I will be, yeah. There'll be plenty for people to see there.
Great. So if anybody wants to catch Tell, be sure to catch them at any of those shows. And you can also, Tell, what's your website again for our viewers?
Well, for your viewers, I would think the eco site would be better. So that's reptileshirts.com.
All right. So everybody have that. Go to reptileshirts.com and visit Tell and show your support. John, you got anything for Tell in closing?
Other than 1,000 thank yous for being on the show, Mr. Hicks, I've admired your work. We've actually shook hands, I think, twice now at NARBC shows, and I've never had the gumption to actually ask you or talk to you at all. Just go by, shake your hand, and be like, wow, that was awesome, thank you. So it was a great honor to meet you, sir. Albeit virtually.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. And Shannon, as far as your upcoming show season, now I know you just moved into the new log cabin and all that fun stuff. So are you going to be doing any shows this year, or are we going to be looking for you next year?
Well, as time goes on, I plan to do more and more and more shows. Building up enough product to do shows is a main concern. Now that I have a mortgage to pay, and a full-size studio, I'm expecting to put in at least 8 to 10 hours a day from here on out. So you can expect a lot more from me in the next year. And I mean a lot. I mean, right now I have hardly anything for sale just because the past few months things have been really, really crazy. Moving forward, I still am planning with all my might. I want to do Tintle this October. So that's a big goal of mine, and I've been to the Daytona show a few times, and I would eventually like to also participate in that show as well. And as far as local to my area, I always vend the Oaks show in that would be Oaks, Pennsylvania, because it's rather local to me, and I always visit Hamburg. I usually don't vend. I believe next month I might have a few things on a table there, but other than that, I eventually plan to expand a little more into the neighboring states. I'm gonna start hitting the White Plains show in New York and several other shows. As I get more product, I'll be able to do more shows.
For sure, of course. And Natalie, same for you. What shows are we going to be seeing yet this season?
For sure, the Buffalo Niagara Reptile Expo in October.
Okay.
I got a table there. Eventually, I want to start doing the White Plains Expo, because I'm right there, the Long Island Expo, and hopefully other, like the Chicago one. I really, really want to do that one, but at this moment I just can't. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling very well. I'm like you. Always wanted to get out to the Chicago show, and it's just never seems to be the right time, or something always comes up. I don't know.
It's my mission this year.
What's that?
I said it's my mission this year. I'm making it to the Tinley Park show this year. I'd definitely be there. And, of course, I'm always at the Daytona show. Natalie, in closing, where can everybody catch you? I know we can catch you on all the social media sites, but your personal website is what address again?
It's NatalieBeato.com. Just my name.
All right. And don't you have a Etsy?
Yes. The Etsy is linked on my website, but the Etsy is Etsy Natalie Beato's art.
Great. So I'll put those links up. Reptile Living Room. I think I have them in the event page too as well. So I'll go ahead and put those up so you guys can visit Natalie. And let me jump back to Shannon. And Shannon, other than shows coming up and stuff like that, where else can anybody get you? Do you have a website, or is it just the Facebook page?
I've been building a website for a while. It's not done, so I don't really give it out much yet, other than it's on my business cards. It's just ColdBloodedCreation.com. especially with the internet I have right now, building my website, it has not been something. I'm gonna have to get on it once I start having a lot of product to offer to people. I do have an Etsy shop right now. There's hardly anything in it. Normally, the best way to reach me would be either email or Facebook. Right now, with my current internet situation, Facebook is absolutely horrendous. But once we get everything figured out here, Facebook will be the main way to reach me. You can also you can follow me on Instagram at ColdBlooded Creation.
Great. All right. So I want to personally thank all our panelists for coming on. It's been a great show. I've learned a lot this show. And I've seen every one of yours work around social media. It gets shared all the time. And I want to personally thank all three of you for coming on and spending 2 hours with us. Until you can actually go lay down and take a nap here as we close the show out, so before the sun comes up. John, you got anything else? Otherwise, I'm good to go.
No, I think that was it. Once again, thank you to all of our incredibly talented guests and artists. Really appreciate you having coming on the show, and look forward to seeing you at hopefully a next reptile show, and we can sit down and have another chat together. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week, next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, YouTube. Catch us there.